Have you ever faced danger so close it steals your breath? Linda's nightmare was far from over when her ex-husband struck again, abducting her for the second time. But this time, she and Quang refused to stay silent. Reporting him to the police, they triggered a tense chase through the night filled with fear, determination, and relentless pursuit. In the end, justice caught up with him. He was stopped, arrested, and now faces up to 15 years in prison. Don't miss a single moment of this gripping story. Subscribe now and follow Linda and Quang's fight for survival and justice. Linda trembled as she leaned into Quang's embrace, the cool night air brushing against her face, carrying the faint scent of rain and asphalt. But this time, her tears were not of fear. They were of resolution, of a quiet, simmering fury that had built up over months of torment. The memory of her second abduction at the hands of her ex-husband still clawed at her mind, sharp and relentless. Each second of that terrifying ordeal replayed vividly. The way he had cornered her in her own home, the cold gleam in his eyes, and the cruel smirk that seemed to relish her helplessness. She had felt trapped, powerless, a pawn in someone else's twisted game. And yet, here she was, alive, trembling but unbroken, with Quang's steady presence grounding her, anchoring her to reality. Quang's hands were firm around her shoulders, a silent vow that he would never let her face such danger alone again. "We can't let him get away with this," he whispered, his voice low and steady, carrying the weight of determination. Linda nodded, her heart pounding, not just from adrenaline, but from the clarity that had settled over her like a sudden dawn. They could no longer pretend that forgiveness was an option. This was not a moment for leniency, not a time to close their eyes and hope the nightmare would fade. Her ex-husband had crossed the line twice, and it was a line that demanded justice. She would not allow the terror he had sown to linger in her life, polluting every quiet moment with fear. As the adrenaline ebbed slightly, Linda felt a strange mixture of relief and steely resolve. Relief that she was safe in Quang's arms, that the worst of her immediate danger had passed, and resolve that nothing in the world would let her repeat the mistakes of the past. This was the moment they drew a boundary that could not be crossed. No more silent endurance, no more muted pleas for mercy. Her ex-husband's actions were deliberate, malicious, and repeated, and that could not go unanswered. In that instant, Linda realized that true courage was not in risking her life recklessly, but in choosing to stand firm and demand accountability, to refuse to be a victim twice. The night seemed to grow quieter around them, as if the world itself were holding its breath, sensing the gravity of their decision. Even the distant hum of traffic and the occasional bark of a dog seemed to fade into a muted backdrop, highlighting the intensity of the moment. Linda tilted her head to look at Quang, seeing the same determination mirrored in his eyes, a shared understanding that this was no longer about fear, but about reclaiming control of their lives. Together, they resolved that they would fight, not with anger alone, but with the unwavering certainty that justice would be served. This time, there would be no mercy for betrayal, no forgiveness for cruelty. They were prepared to face whatever consequences it might bring, united in the belief that some actions, once repeated, could never be ignored. In that quiet, tension-filled embrace, Linda and Quang made a silent promise. They would not let fear dictate their lives, and they would not allow injustice to pass unchallenged. The battle for their peace had begun, and they would face it head on, ready for the storm that was coming. By the time Linda and Quang arrived at the police station, the night had deepened into a thick, almost tangible darkness, pressing against the walls of the car and the city around them. Inside, the fluorescent lights cast a harsh glow on the empty desks and the polished floor, a sterile contrast to the chaos that churned in their minds. Linda clutched the folder of evidence she had brought with her, hands trembling slightly, though her resolve remained unshaken. Each piece of proof, the photographs, the threatening messages, the eyewitness accounts, was a brick in the foundation of justice they were determined to build. She handed everything to the officer at the front desk, her voice steady, despite the lingering tremor of adrenaline. "He did this before," she said, "and he'll do it again if you don't stop him. We can't let him get away with it." The officer's eyes widened slightly as he scanned the documents, realizing immediately the gravity of the situation. Orders were barked into radios, phones buzzed, and the police force sprang into action with an efficiency that reminded Linda of how powerful the law could be when wielded correctly. Quang stayed close, his presence a steadying force, whispering reassurances that calmed the knots in her stomach. As the minutes stretched into tense anticipation, she could feel the pulse of the city outside, the distant sirens echoing like a heartbeat racing toward the inevitable confrontation. She didn't dare let herself imagine what might happen if her ex-husband discovered that she had turned to the authorities, but she also knew that this time there would be no more running, no more hiding. Hours seemed to blur as the chase unfolded. From the officer's reports and sporadic updates, Linda and Quang learned that her ex-husband had panicked upon realizing the authorities were after him. He had taken to the winding mountain roads, the engine of his car roaring like a beast cornered, tires screeching against the asphalt. Every turn, every hairpin curve became a potential trap, and the police followed with tactical precision, coordinating via radios that crackled with urgency. The tension was almost unbearable, and Linda's mind raced through every possible outcome, calculating, fearing, hoping. Yet beneath the fear, a quiet satisfaction began to settle in. Justice was on its way, inching closer with every passing moment. And then came the decisive moment. The officers cornered him on a narrow stretch of road where escape was impossible. The ex-husband's face, caught in the glare of flashing police lights, contorted with anger and panic. He revved the engine, making one last desperate attempt to flee. But the police had anticipated it. The sound of a gunshot pierced the night, startling and final, echoing through the surrounding cliffs. Linda instinctively flinched, but felt no fear, only the sharp, liberating sense that the threat which had haunted her life was being neutralized. Her ex-husband had been stopped, his violent spree halted before it could claim another life. Quang held her hand tightly, and she felt the tension slowly ebb, replaced by the steadiness of justice in motion. For the first time since the nightmare began, Linda dared to breathe freely. They had done everything they could, and the law had acted. The darkness outside was no longer threatening. It had been pushed back by the unwavering light of action, determination, and truth. The chase was over, and the consequences were about to take hold. In the tense stillness that followed the gunshot, Linda and Quang stood side by side, listening to the rapid movements of the police as they secured the scene. The night was alive with flashing lights and the hurried voices of officers. But for Linda, the chaos around her was muted, almost surreal. She could hardly believe that the man who had haunted her life, who had turned her days into nights of terror, was finally contained. The realization washed over her slowly, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. The nightmare was over. Her ex-husband had been apprehended, restrained, and helpless, his desperate attempts to escape now meaningless against the unyielding hand of the law. Quang wrapped his arms around her again, and she allowed herself to lean into him, feeling the weight of relief and exhaustion settle into her bones. The police led him away, his hands bound, face pale and etched with fear and fury. He would no longer be able to manipulate, intimidate, or threaten her. He would face the full force of justice, and the thought, as horrifying as the event had been, brought a strange sense of closure. Linda knew with unwavering certainty that he would not evade punishment this time. The charges were severe: repeated abduction, attempted harm, and the compounded weight of prior offenses. And under the law, he faced a prison sentence that could extend to 15 years. For the first time in months, Linda allowed herself to imagine a future without constant vigilance, a life where she and Quang could step forward together without glancing over their shoulders at every shadow. As the officers took him to the patrol car, one of them paused to reassure Linda and Quang, speaking in calm, measured tones. "He's going to face the consequences. You did everything right by reporting him, and justice will take its course." Linda nodded, the words resonating deep within her. She had played her part, and now it was up to the system to follow through. It was a profound reminder that courage, when paired with truth and persistence, could dismantle even the darkest of threats. Quang squeezed her hand, silently affirming that they had survived together and that nothing could break the bond they had strengthened through fear, danger, and shared resolve. Walking back to their car, the first hints of dawn were brushing the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. The city seemed quieter now, the night's terror replaced by a calm that felt almost sacred. Linda breathed deeply, savoring the fresh air, the absence of threat, and the hard-earned peace that came from facing danger and refusing to bow to it. She knew the road ahead would still have challenges, but the most immediate danger, the shadow of her ex-husband, had been removed. Quang wrapped an arm around her again, and she allowed herself to lean into him, feeling the weight of relief and exhaustion settle into her bones. The events of the night left an indelible mark on Linda's life. Fear had once dominated her existence, but now the triumph of justice had reclaimed her nights and her mind. Her ex-husband's crimes had been halted, his freedom stripped away, and the certainty of his imprisonment, 15 years at minimum, was a tangible, concrete vindication. Linda allowed herself a quiet smile, gratitude mingling with exhaustion. She and Quang had survived, and justice had been served, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she could embrace the possibility of a life free from terror, a life in which courage and determination had won the day.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tử Linda Review. Vậy là trong câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay thì Linda và Quang đã đoàn tụ với nhau và quyết định sẽ báo cảnh sát về hành vi của chồng cũ của cô, vì hắn đã bắt cóc cô. Đây là lần thứ hai và cô lần này không thể tha thứ cho hắn ta. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về câu chuyện tình yêu của Quang và Linda sẽ còn được kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn hãy bấm vào nút subscribe để đăng ký kênh, sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các tập phim sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.